Mia carried the weight of the world on her small shoulders. Every step she took was heavy with responsibility, every decision a matter of life and death. She was not just a leader, she was a beacon of hope in a world shrouded in darkness. At 14, she was the eldest, the one who had to grow up too fast, the one who had to make the hard choices. Her eyes, once filled with the innocence of youth, now bore the weight of countless sleepless nights and endless worries. The protector of 13 lost souls, cast adrift in a world gone mad. Each child looked up to her, their trust unwavering, their hope pinned on her slender shoulders. She led them through the darkness, her heart pounding with the fear of what lay ahead. They clung to her, their eyes reflecting the flickering flames of their makeshift campfires. The firelight danced in their eyes, a fragile symbol of the warmth and safety they so desperately craved. Each night, as the flames flickered, Mia would gather them close, offering what little comfort she could.
Each night, I told them stories. Stories of heroes and adventures, of a world where they were safe and loved. I painted pictures with my words, creating a tapestry of hope that they could cling to in the darkest of times. Tales of hope, of rescue, of a world before Chucky. I spoke of a time when the world was bright and full of promise, when laughter was a common sound and fear was a distant memory. The children would listen, their eyes wide with wonder, their hearts momentarily lightened.
She knew deep down that these were just stories, fabrications to keep the darkness at bay, to give the children something to hold on to. But even as she spun these tales, a part of her wished they were true, that there was a hero out there who would come to their rescue, lullabies to soothe them to sleep. The stories were a balm for their weary souls, a way to ease them into a restless slumber. As the children drifted off, Mia would watch over them, her heart aching with the knowledge of the harsh reality they faced. The truth was a bitter pill. The world they lived in was unforgiving, and every day was a struggle for survival. Mia's heart hardened with each passing day, the weight of her responsibilities pressing down on her like a vice. They were alone, hunted, forgotten. The world had moved on, leaving them to fend for themselves in the shadows. Every corner held a new danger, every night brought new terrors. The children looked to Mia for protection, and she vowed to never let them down. Chucky's eyes, glowing with malevolent glee, haunted their every step. The malevolent presence was a constant reminder of the danger that lurked in the shadows, a specter that threatened to snatch away their fragile hope. There was no escape, only survival. Every day was a battle, every night a test of their endurance. Mia knew that they could not afford to let their guard down, not even for a moment.
But tonight, something felt different. There was a tension in the air, a sense of foreboding that she couldn't shake. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. A chill snaked down my spine, coiling around me like a serpent. The night was colder than usual, the air thick with an unspoken threat. I could feel it in my bones, a primal fear that set my nerves on edge. The air crackled with a strange energy whispering my name. It was as if the very night was alive, calling out to me, drawing me towards something unknown and terrifying.
It was a siren's call, seductive and terrifying. The darkness seemed to pulse with a life of its own, beckoning her to step into its embrace. It promised power, a way to protect those she loved, but at what cost? It beckoned her towards the darkness, promising power beyond imagination. Mia stood at the edge, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that to step forward would be to embrace the unknown, to risk everything for a chance at salvation. But as she looked back at the sleeping children, she knew she had no choice. For them, she would face the darkness, no matter what it held. The whispers started subtly, faint at first, like the rustling of leaves. They were almost imperceptible, blending seamlessly with the natural sounds of the night. It was as if the forest itself was trying to communicate, to share its ancient secrets with those who dared to listen. Then, they grew louder, more insistent. The whispers became a constant presence, echoing in the corners of her mind. They were no longer just background noise. They demanded her attention, pulling her deeper into their enigmatic world. They spoke of her deepest fears, her hidden desires, the things she never dared to voice, the thoughts she kept locked away in the darkest recesses of her heart. The whispers knew her better than she knew herself, and they used that knowledge to manipulate her, to bend her will to their own. They promised her a way out, a chance to escape the relentless pursuit. The whispers painted vivid pictures in her mind, showing her a life free from the shadows that haunted her every step. They offered her hope, a glimmer of light in the suffocating darkness.
In her dreams, I came to her. My scarred face, usually twisted in a grotesque parody of a smile, was strangely sympathetic. I was a figure from her past, a ghost she thought she had left behind. But now I was back, and I had something important to tell her. I understood her burden, I claimed. I knew the sacrifices she made, the fear that gnawed at her. I spoke to her with a sincerity that was hard to ignore, my words weaving a tapestry of understanding and empathy. I was the only one who truly saw her, who recognized the weight she carried.
He offered her a choice: continue to shoulder the impossible burden, or embrace the power to change everything. It was a tantalizing proposition, one that promised to alter the course of her life forever. The crossroads before her was both a literal and metaphorical representation of the decision she had to make.
Join me, together. We can reshape this world. My voice was a siren's call, beckoning her to step into the unknown. I extended my hand, a gesture of partnership and promise. The power to change everything was within her grasp, if only she had the courage to take it.
His words wormed their way into her waking thoughts, lingering like a persistent echo. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was truth in what he said, that perhaps he held the key to her salvation. Planting seeds of doubt. What if he was right? The question gnawed at her, eroding her resolve. She had always been so sure of her path, but now uncertainty clouded her mind. What if there was another way? A way to protect the others, to finally find peace? The possibility was both thrilling and terrifying. She had spent so long fighting, struggling to keep the darkness at bay. Could she really trust this new path, this new ally? The darkness whispered promises, tempting her with its seductive embrace. It offered her everything she had ever wanted, but at what cost? The line between right and wrong blurred, and she found herself standing on the precipice of a decision that would change her life forever. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if sensing her hesitation. They urged her to take the leap, to embrace the unknown and seize the power that awaited her. The choice was hers, and hers alone. The seed of doubt, once planted, grew with alarming speed. It twisted her thoughts, poisoning her resolve. She found herself staring into the flames for hours, Chucky's words echoing in her mind.
Join me. Together we can reshape this world.
She tried to fight it, to cling to the last vestiges of hope, but the weight of leadership pressed down on her, heavier with each passing day.
The children's faces, once a source of strength, now reflected my own growing despair.
The whispers intensified, urging her to make a choice. Her heart ached with each beat, torn between loyalty and the seductive allure of power. The darkness promised to ease her pain, to make her strong, but at what cost? Their latest haven was a crumbling bridge, a precarious lifeline over a chasm of churning rapids. The bridge, once a symbol of connection, now stood as a testament to neglect and decay. Each step on its weathered planks echoed with the ghosts of those who had crossed before, their fates unknown. The waters below roared, a constant reminder of the peril that awaited any misstep. The bridge swayed with the wind, its creaks and groans adding to the symphony of dread that filled the air. The air hung heavy with the stench of decay and the ever-present threat of discovery. A thick fog enveloped the surroundings, shrouding everything in a veil of uncertainty. The decay was not just physical, but seemed to seep into the very essence of the place, a foreboding presence that gnawed at the soul. Every breath was a struggle, the air thick with the weight of unspoken fears and the remnants of past horrors. The fog seemed to whisper secrets, tales of despair and lost hope. This was it, the whispers insisted. The moment of truth, where choices would be made and destinies forged. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if the very air was alive with anticipation. Each whisper carried a weight, a sense of urgency that pressed down on her shoulders. The darkness around her seemed to pulse with the whispers, each one a thread in the tapestry of fate that was being woven. This was the moment of decision. Every fiber of her being screamed for her to turn back, to flee from the impending doom. Yet, something held her in place, a force stronger than fear. Her mind raced, weighing the consequences of each possible choice. The bridge was not just a physical crossing, but a metaphorical one, a passage from one reality to another. The decision she faced was not just about survival, but about the very essence of who she was and who she would become.
Join me, Mia. Embrace your destiny. The voice was smooth, almost hypnotic, weaving a web of promises and temptations. It spoke of power, of freedom from the chains that bound her. The words were like a siren's call, alluring and dangerous. They promised an escape from the pain, a release from the burdens that weighed her down. But at what cost? The voice was a double-edged sword, offering salvation and damnation in equal measure.
Chucky appeared before her, a specter bathed in moonlight. His presence was both ethereal and menacing, a ghostly figure that seemed to float above the ground. The moonlight cast an eerie glow on his features, highlighting the sharp angles of his face and the coldness in his eyes. He was a figure out of a nightmare, a manifestation of her deepest fears. Yet there was something compelling about him, a magnetism that drew her in despite the terror he inspired. He held out his hand, his eyes burning with an unholy light. The light was mesmerizing, a beacon in the darkness that promised both enlightenment and destruction. His hand was steady, unwavering, a stark contrast to the turmoil within her. The light in his eyes seemed to pierce through her, seeing into the depths of her soul. It was a gaze that promised understanding, acceptance, and a path forward. But it was also a gaze that demanded surrender, a relinquishing of control. The children slept, oblivious to the drama unfolding around them. Their peaceful slumber was a stark contrast to the chaos that raged in her mind. They were innocent, untouched by the darkness that threatened to consume her. Their dreams were filled with light and laughter, a world away from the shadows that loomed over her. The sight of them brought a pang of longing, a desire to protect and preserve their innocence at all costs. Their innocent faces tore at her heart, their vulnerability a painful reminder of her responsibility. Each breath they took was a testament to the trust they placed in her, a trust she was terrified of betraying. Their vulnerability was a mirror, reflecting her own fears and doubts. She was their guardian, their protector, and the weight of that responsibility was almost too much to bear. Yet it was also a source of strength, a reason to fight against the darkness that threatened to engulf her. But Chucky's words echoed in her mind, drowning out the last vestiges of her conscience. They were a relentless drumbeat, a constant reminder of the choice she faced. The conflict within her was a storm, a battle between light and dark, hope and despair. Each word he spoke was a dagger, cutting through her resolve and leaving her raw and exposed. The voices in her head clashed, each one vying for dominance, each one pulling her in a different direction. With a trembling hand, she reached out and took his hand. The touch was electric, a jolt that sent shivers down her spine. It was a moment of surrender, a relinquishing of control, and a step into the unknown. Her hand in his was a bond, a connection that sealed her fate. The bridge beneath her seemed to fade away, replaced by a path shrouded in darkness and uncertainty. Yet in that moment, she felt a strange sense of peace, a calm acceptance of the journey ahead. The world dissolved into a whirlwind of pain and ecstasy. A searing agony ripped through her veins as if 1,000 needles were piercing her flesh. Chucky's laughter echoed in her skull, a symphony of madness. Then, just as suddenly, it stopped. She opened her eyes to find herself bathed in moonlight, standing over the crumpled form of Chucky. His blood, black and viscous, coated her hands. Power surged through her, intoxicating and terrifying. She was reborn, remade in his image. The children still slept, unaware of the transformation that had taken place. But they would soon learn, Chucky's voice whispered in her mind. They would all learn the price of her ascension.